want to introduce our next speaker, who is basically managing data science, data operations at a company which has basically been a trailblazer and a pioneer in marketing technology in Finland for a very, very long time. So I very, very much enjoy introducing Mr. Robin Wikström from F-Secure, and big hand for this wizard here. He is the person that all headhunters are looking at right now, since this is the skill set that is in like 1000% demand increases every year for this exact competence. So he's been throwing all those headhunters, leaving them behind. So a very, very interesting topic that you're going to be having, and go ahead.
Thanks. Great. So my name is Robin Wikström, and I will introduce the company a bit in a while, but I'm responsible for driving the business intelligence on the B2B side. And my topic of today is how to develop a data-driven customer journey. And I'm planning to take a bit different approach to the previous speakers. I will take a bit high level and discuss maybe my biggest question at the moment, so what? Because we have reached a quite good stage, if I say it myself. We know the customer journey, we have the basic endpoints, but what to do now? So what's the next step? And a spoiler could be that one of the biggest problems is the culture. So if you have the data and you have the connections, what you do next? And how do you get your people to actually live and breathe data? Although, of course, not everyone can be like me and dream about data, but I mean, at least they could, during the work hours, they could dream about data. Shortly about F-Secure. We turned 30 this year, actually. I think it's now in June. And we have been, since the start, protecting companies, customers, people in general. Currently, it's become more of a war, a cyber war. So we're now currently all soldiers fighting in the big cyber war. And the journey has been quite interesting. Before we were protecting from viruses and home computers in the basements, but now we are protecting governments, organizations, companies more globally, because the threat is global. That's also why I'm here, because we are focusing more and more on the business side, which is the ones which are more in need of help. We have currently 1,000 employees, and we are quite global. I think it's 15 to 20 global offices around the world. And we are expanding quite rapidly. We were 800 people when I started 2 years ago. Now we are over 1,000. So start with the basics, the customer journey. So where did we start? This is high level, so it's not only marketing automation. So on the left side, you have the customer. You have different touch points, sending emails, creating leads, orders, phone calls, usage of the products. And a couple of years back, we basically didn't know that much. We knew that there was some money on the bank account, and it increased. One day there was more, and one day it was less, but we didn't really know from where it came. And we didn't really know the origin of it. And furthermore, we didn't really know, we saw that people were using our products, but we didn't really know who used it. And was there any specific things behind it? Did only people in Finland log in on Sundays, and did people in Germany log in on Mondays? We didn't know these things because we couldn't connect the dots. And currently, this is where we are. So we managed to, both with help of technology and also with help of processes, we managed to connect the dots. So now we understand that the person here that created a lead 2 months ago now is using one of our products. And then we also understand that they are the ones that gave us the money. So that's really a breakthrough thing for us. And I will elaborate a bit more about this, the good things and the bad things, and what we are using this for later on. But this is where we are now. So we understand the basic connections. We understand that people are receiving our emails. We understand that they are interacting with us. We also understand that they are the ones that call support, complaining. We can connect the dots, of course, as much as legally is possible. And this is maybe the interesting point. Where are we going? And we are putting a lot of money into telepathy development. No, we are not. If no one of you, hope you didn't believe in that. That would be nice though to have that. But we want to, of course, extend the customer side also. We want to know more of the customer, even before they're interacting with us. I think that's what everyone is looking for. We want to understand the customers, and we want to understand how they're making decisions. A bit like Sana talked about this in the morning session. And then we want to connect everything into one beautiful circle of customer journey. We want to have the feedback. We want to know why they hate us, why they love us, and all of these things. We want to connect the circle. And also furthermore, we want to make this current path that we have, we want to make it more robust and make it more extended and make it more clear. So that's the two things that we are developing towards. So how did we achieve this? This is the timeline from the Eloqua point of view, our marketing automation tool. And as you can see here, which is maybe the first point of my presentation, it didn't go in 2 months. It actually started in 2011, although from my point of view, the real start was in 2015 when we established the digital marketing team and we actually started to push this. So that's probably the starting point, but still it's been taking 3 years. Now we are here, so it's not something that you do this evening. It actually will take a while. As you can see here, also the things that we are offering or are using has become more complex. In the beginning, we had partner email communications, and then now we're looking at automated communications with using behavior and predictions, and combining, what else do we have here? Programmatic advertising based on CRM data. So it's quite a leap from sending emails to actually optimizing it. And this really simple picture, I really don't understand it myself either, not all of it. But if you ask something, I can pretend. This is our ecosystem with Eloqua in the middle, which is the serves. I know there are some of my colleagues from Eloqua team that are watching this, and they don't get enough of cred at home, so maybe we can give them some cred here. They are maintaining this whole spider in the web thing. But the three main technologies here is that we have the website. Currently we're using Google Analytics. We have Eloqua, and then we have Salesforce. And Eloqua is the binding everything together. Having the integration to CRM tool, which is this one, happening there, the native integrations, and then feeding all the online presence things. Also, not only online, also telemarketing, other things are being fed into Eloqua and then forwarded to CRM tool. And then, although I will elaborate on this a bit later also in the reporting side, but we also have a data lake on top of this. So to make it even more complex, we are sending data to a data lake and then using that for reporting. I just want to mention that they didn't go unnoticed. So, what's the good things? I want to read two good things and 2 bad things with this setup. The first thing, which is a natural one, we can optimize the customer journey. So we understand, for instance, that, what's a good example? We can find the bottlenecks, for instance. We see that if someone is visiting our site all the time and are speaking with our telemarketing, are speaking with a customer, they might be interested in buying our products, for instance. So this is the key thing, making the flow as easy as possible for them to buy our products and then also to get support. This is the natural one. I will come back to this when I raise the negative things. Then predictions, which has been a somewhat discussed topic already today. Although you shouldn't believe in predictions, because they're not, it's difficult to predict the next hour already, as was mentioned. there's still use in predicting things. So for instance, we know that if we get 1,000 leads this month, and we got 500 last month, then the potential to getting more sales is higher. So we can correlate these things. If more people are visiting our sites, then it's a higher potential that we will get more income or more sales. And then we can see that if you compare, for instance, Finland and Germany, if you see that there's more activities in certain touch points happening in Germany, we are quite certain that this will lead to more positive things in the end of the funnel. So that, I think on that level, predictions are good. Of course, promising that, once I claimed in January that I could predict the whole year turnover, but that I was quite close, but then I cheated a bit. So I mean, those really don't make sense, just for potentially for getting some feelings, but not, you shouldn't base your decisions on that. But what we are more looking into it, and what we are trying to develop, but we are not really there, is this prescriptive, which is the next level of predictive. So maybe giving us advice that maybe you could try this, or maybe you shouldn't do this. Not on the level of don't do this and don't do that, but maybe you should try this and this. To encourage also this experimental culture, which a lot of companies might be lacking. That you actually dare to try things. You dare to change the color of your email, even though it's been the same for 15 years. But you live on the edge for a while. And maybe, if you're really bold, you can send it to more than 100 people. You can send it to 200 people. I think we have 300,000 in our database, so it's not going to... We have a lot of unnecessary things, but I mean, it's not going to kill us if we are sending it to 200 people. And they are not like the color. But then what we also... Now when we have managed to connect all the main points, and hopefully we are measuring the things that matter, then we can also predict things like if we are selling a lot of products in one country, it's going to lead to a lot of support things in the near future, maybe in 3 months. So we could also remove these potential bottlenecks that we don't sell a lot and become happy, and then it turns out that in 6 months we are red in the customer support side because they are overloaded. So this sharing the understanding and understanding that the left foot or left hand understands what the right hand does. That's, I think, central for these predictions as well, because the predictions go cross-function. Yes, the negative side. This is the fun part. So what's my biggest concern at the moment? I don't know in what stage you are in your organization, but the biggest problem related to this, so what? I will come back to this in the final slide, but I mean, what we are lacking is it's not so black and white, but we are lacking this because not everyone can be like the analysts. We really like the data. I mean, I think it's fun to spin the Excels or the business intelligence tool, but I also understand that few people are like me, and a lot of people hate going to a business intelligence tool and hate when their managers are forcing them to look at the data. I understand that, but what we are trying to achieve is this golden middle way that you would at least understand if you do something, how it's going to affect the rest of the company. I think that's what we are trying to raise, that not that you become a data geek, but that you become somewhat interested. That you understand, if you're a marketeer in France, that you understand that if you're doing this, it's going to affect the whole company in this way. And I think that's what a lot of companies are lacking, this cross-functional company-wide understanding. And with the help of, I will quickly browse that through our data setup, with the help of that reporting tools, it becomes possible for anyone, even though you're a global company, that you all have the same data. So there is this enough transparency. Of course, you can't give everyone all the data, but enough so that you understand that how your work is affecting the turnout of the company. But I have this one slide I will get back to. Then I'm really proud of this slide. I think it was clever. you can steal it with pride if you want. Feel free. Which relates back to the picture of the digital ecosystem. It's really complex, and I'm the first one to admit that I don't understand it. I think there's one person or two persons in the whole company that understands how it actually works. It is complex, and then we are a 30-year-old IT company, and it means that we have a legacy. I don't think we have the DOS systems. It might be, but it's quite close. And especially on the product side, there's a lot of things have been there before most of us were born, almost, at least me. So, and you can't really shut them down because the cost is quite significant. So that's really, it becomes really complex. It's not always like in the movies or like in the YouTube ads that you do it in one evening and everything is, you plug in the cable and everything is fine and dandy. So that's the second big problem that we are facing. Then quickly about this, because it's really not so interesting, it's how is this data delivered to the people or to the users. So we have 2 points. We have the Salesforce, which Eloqua is feeding into, and also Google and all of our other tools are feeding. So the idea is that all the day-to-day, minute-to-minute things should be in Salesforce. So all your daily things that you need to succeed in what you're doing, regarding if it's sales or marketing or whatnot, you go to Salesforce. Because there we have all the key core data, the key things that you need to measure. But of course, then on the side, we have a lot of, as you saw in the previous presentations, tons of different tools. And of course, these have their own purpose, and for some of our experts, they need to go there and do deep dives. But the general things, for regardless of where you're sitting or what you're doing, you go to Salesforce to get that insight. And then we have Tableau, which is feeding from the data lake. And there we have more granular data, more details, but it should be also seen as a more strategic thing, that you go there maybe once a week, once a month, and you understand. Again, if you're doing marketing, you're busy with your stuff, then you go here once a week and say, hey, how is the business going? Are we in the right direction? And then that's the setup we have. But I won't, it's not so hot either compared to the other things. So to sum it up, this second point of today, which we're trying to drive, hopefully this would solve the culture thing. That we believe that it's not a good thing if you create an analytics team and you put them in a corner. They're all really, really clever, which we are. I said all the headhunters are calling us all the time. So it's not so good to put them into a room, even worse in the basement, and then they produce a lot of insight. But so what? I mean, what's the benefit of that? It's really difficult to sell something that said that, hey, we spent 1 month in the basement and now we have this super good plan. It's really difficult to sell, even though we are really good at selling, but it's difficult. So the real experts, the paid media responsible person, the ones handling search engine optimization, they are the ones that should derive the insights. The analyst should just give them the tools and maybe support them and point them in the right direction, but the insight should be created by the experts. Then the final slides, then I will give it over to you. Sum it up. Naturally, everyone should develop a customer journey. I'm not, even though I was somewhat negative, everyone should do this. It's worth the money times 10, but it will take time, so it needs patience, and you need to concentrate on what actually matters. And then, even though you have that, because even though you had unlimited money, you could just buy the whole deck and all the add-ons and plugins, but making the culture adapt after that, that's the one that will take the time. And then the final point, because this is now everywhere, data solution, not the fuel. I think it's essential, but it's not so that the data is the one that people will kill over. I think it's the data is the fuel that would fuel the culture, that would then move you to greatness. Great stuff. These are a nice logo, black and white. But life is not black and white, though.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would want to ask a few clarifying or detailed questions on what you just presented there. I saw a few key components there, Tableau and the data lake, but could you expand a little bit more, like in depth, which technologies and processes you are using in your predictive and prescriptive analytics, and how does that in practice look?
That's a good question. Of course, the one main thing that we want to always keep to is that we don't add extra tools, especially not for the users. But we are using, for instance, R, which is my favorite tool, and we have that integrated to Tableau. So we can create really advanced things and connect it to Tableau. But we're not going to give the access to the users because that would kill the culture even more if they don't even know how to open the program. So we want to limit that. The user interface, it should be as limited as possible. Then what happens in the backend, then can be as complex as possible. But we have this big data lake, and the long-term plan is to combine all our tools into that. And then we have the main tool being Tableau, which feeds directly from that. So for instance, CRM system, Eloqua, they send data to the data lake, and then we retrieve it from there. Then of course, I don't know if that fully answers to your question.
Yeah, quite close.
Close.
When it comes to acquiring or setting up a data lake or a data warehouse, when does an organization know that, okay, we're now at a situation where we would greatly benefit from a data lake or a data warehouse? Or is there any tipping point or any key identifiers that now we're arriving the maturity, organizational maturity, or a place where the next logical step is to get a data lake or a data warehouse?
That's a good question. Maybe my personal opinion is that most of the companies need the data warehouse, just because of one basic reason: backup. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Eloqua has a 2-year. And I think that's a long period already. A lot of the tools that are used have this 1 year, 2 year, and then they start deleting the data. So by having a data lake or a data warehouse, at least if you understand what is the key things, and if you can predict what will be the key thing in 10 years, then it's really a good thing to have. You have the backup and you have everything in one place. And then you can connect the somewhat easy-to-use tool, Tableau, for instance, to that. Then, of course, on the other side, if you create a data warehouse just for the sake of creating it and you start storing stuff there, then maybe you'd be better with paper and pen. Because that's then, I've been in those situations quite a lot of times when you create all the data, you collect all the data, store all the data, then you think that you will use it. And then because there's a cost in storing data, which people tend to forget. The bills continue growing. And then it's really difficult to see if you have 1,000 terabytes somewhere in London in a server, cloud server even, and they start to increase the bills quickly, then what do you delete? So 2 coins, I think, 2 sides of the coin.
What would you say are the differences what is a data lake and what is a data warehouse? Where can you draw the line, or can you? Is it the use?
Probably someone can, but I'm not sure if I can.
So it's potato?
I think so, but probably someone is now turning there somewhere, maybe online even, that what is he claiming. But maybe the data lake, I would say that a warehouse is a warehouse so you can store stuff, but the lake is maybe more dynamic towards the BI side. I visualize, in my head, it's like a lake and everything is feeding into that. Whereas the warehouse is the place you store somewhere and no one goes there. I think so.
Yeah. So as data science is the hottest thing since sliced bread at the moment, so when companies are looking to recruit data analysts, data scientists, what key terms or key competences or features would you recommend companies to look for in candidates or recruitment?
That's difficult. I think we actually discussed this a while back, or also in F-Secure. I mean, I see it in this way. You have the data scientists, in my mind, are those which are really good at coding and understands the data. They understand tables, they understand databases, they understand how you manipulate data, how you turn them around, and how you combine them and join them and whatnot. That's the data scientists, and they are the ones, in my mind, maintaining the backend, the warehouse, the data lakes, and they're the ones which are really talented, because that requires to be talented. And then you have the other side, where I'm maybe more at the business analysts, which are the ones that understand the business, or should understand the business, and also understand some mathematics and some backend, how to use the tools. And then you have the third part, which are the users, and they can be experts. They don't need to understand where the data comes from as long as they trust it. But I would say that the data scientists are the ones that are really good at mathematics and coding, and then you have the analysts which are good at business. They understand that this number here means that it will affect this here in the other end. That's my view.
And does your team include the round table, and then all sockets have been filled with experts, or how does that work in a situation where, from my perspective, it's like a grand situation and the holy grail has been reached? So is it truly so, or what are the challenges in that sense of team building?
We made it quite easy. Our team, the business intelligence team, we are the analysts. So we are experts in marketing analytics, sales analytics. We understand how they all are cross-connected. But then we have the IT side, which we call it, which are the ones that are developing the tools and all of the tables and the databases. And then we are the connection between the rest of the company and the IT. So we don't need to be concerned about if we need to have this data set or this connection. We need to see this from this point of view. Then we are not the ones doing it, but we should be able to explain it to the scientists. I think that's the biggest skill probably we need to have. Because anyone can read the table, but we need to also explain it to maybe the engineers. That's I would say.
All right. Audience questions. Let's pass the mic, since interweb sent some denial of service attacks because the questions in the last round were not visible, audible there, so please.
So what is the process that you go through when you decide what goes into the data lake, and especially what doesn't go into the data lake?
Well, if you look a couple of years back, we didn't have any process. So it was the Wild West. It's really good, actually, because then you could make things happen in one evening. But now we have a process, so we have governance boards and we have different owners of all things, and you have to. Then you have supports. We have support ticket systems, and you prioritize. We have weekly prioritization meetings where we discuss what is important now and what needs to be pushed forward. But we have really clear now owners of all the processes, which of course makes it more slow, but I think it's a good compromise.
There at the back.
So this is just a follow-up question on the first one. Do you have a single person who's responsible for data and data quality, like a data steward or a chief data officer, or is it more a group of people that from different divisions that actually own, data and data quality?
We have actually one person on the IT side which is responsible for the data, the quality. It's in his responsibility. But then on the other side, it's also partly the business intelligence team's responsibility, because we also see it might be difficult if you're on one side of the path to see what data is not relevant or what is bad data. So we are also partly responsible, but now we have one single person.
And my other question is, you said earlier, it doesn't matter if your systems are connected or well connected if you don't have a data-driven culture. And I hear that from a lot of customers that I work with, that they say sometimes, the marketers that design a campaign, quite often they're so busy that they don't really have time to sit down and analyze the data or spend more time on that. What would your advice be to how to drive the adoption of a more data-driven culture and to show them really the value that your team can bring and data?
That's also a really good question. If I would know the answer to that, then I would be happy. I think, again, it goes down to this understanding. I mean, this might be a simple example, but if we spend a lot of time creating a website and we launch it and then we celebrate and then that's the end of that, then we'll never learn, and we don't have any understanding of what is a good idea. But then if you look at the data, we can see that only 50 people came and none of them converted to a lead. So they really didn't give any. It might have been a really nice page, but they didn't give anything to the company per se. So of course it might be in the long run, even though it's difficult to understand why it's important at the moment. In the long run, it's going to be then visible, of course. So I think this basic understanding of how everything is connected, that everyone in the whole company is following this one truth, one number. It doesn't have to be the right number, by the way. I think it's better if everyone is following the wrong number at least the good that they're following the same number. So that then I think that you cannot steal, because I will be famous on that. Because then you see the trends, so if you go up or down. So that's central, I think. And that goes back to that. If everyone understands that, hey, if I'm now creating the world's best button in this product, then it's going to increase this number and this number, then in the end it's going to be visible on the CEO dashboard. I think that is the essence that we need to develop. But it's not going to be easy, but I think that's the problem.
One more quarter.
Yes. Before 2020. Before midsummer, some year. Yeah.
Audience is quiet. So before we wrap up, I would want to ask one question that one of my favorite podcasters, forgot the word of podcaster. 10x Finland always asks us the last closing questions from their visitors that which application or technology or service you yourselves in business or personal life have found to be using more and more of in lately, and why? Robin first, and then
Okay,
you have more time to think about this.
No, I have to admit that even though I'm in this field, I'm really not so good at these applications. But there's one, and I'm thinking, there's one thing. I mostly use email. That's what I use. And then internet. That's a hot thing nowadays. So apparently, so that's what I use. But then, which I'm ashamed to say, I started using this password management system, and now I have it in my phone and my laptop. I did that half a year ago, and now I don't understand how I could live my whole life without that. I think I have like 150 passwords already in half a year. So that's the one tool I use every day.
What's the name of that tool?
We have one in our company, actually. I don't know if we can do marketing, but it turned out that it's free for me to use because it's our own product. So that's why I figured I should use it. It's called Key, F-Secure Key, for password management, Key.
This was actually not a paid ad or anything.
No. The link is on the next page.
Yeah. Vouchers.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that microphone work? I'm not sure. Maybe it does.
Doesn't work.
Same question?
Yes, it does. Same question. You're asking about the application.
Yeah, or which
My
application service, or which technology have you been...
Oh, technology.
Yeah.
That's easier. Like for marketing purposes, not for me.
Well,
Yeah.
business or off business or
business
anything?
is. We are actually at the moment really willing to get to know what that enriched DMB can give us. We can do like a targeted messaging to our selected customers, to digital magazines, or we can do targeted messaging in a Google and or between the lead and opportunity and stuff like that. We have got it already, but we are not using it overall. So that's really interesting stuff.
All right. Though nobody asks me, but I'll answer the same question as regardless. I personally have been starting to use Audible, which is an audiobook listening program that allows me to become more smart or entertained when I walk to work or am sitting in a car or trying to put my baby to sleep. So basically utilizing my time through audio, and it has the function of being able to speed up things and be if the reader or something is very slow. So makes life even more connected. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing. But basically, I want to thank you both. Very, very inspiring and detailed talks. So a round of applause. And the only actual ad that is paid in the form of my salary is that it's a mention that this was not a unique session, this was not a unique situation. We are having our next Power Lunch in week 41, which is in October, and the theme there will be very, very deep dive into predictive data-driven marketing. So stay tuned in your inbox, in all the channels. We'll be lurking around there and throwing up tags for you to register when those comes up. So please do attend. We'll have new topics, new speakers, and hope to inspire you again. So thank you again from my behalf, and thank you, Interwebs, IDBBN, and the crew signing out.